My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, have you ever heard the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence? A lot of us in real estate think that. We think we really need to focus on exotic markets that are always much more attractive than wherever we live. Well, today, zooming in from beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, we've got Dave Codrea, who is a very experienced real estate entrepreneur, syndicator, developer. He does all sorts of stuff in the real estate space. And he's got a contrarian view about that. The grass is definitely not always greener. There are tons of opportunities right where you live. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Dave, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Yeah, Dave, excited to be here. Thanks for doing it.
My pleasure. So Dave, give us a little snapshot. First of all, what is the name of your company and what kind of assets do you guys invest in primarily?
Well, the name of the company is Greenleaf Management. And for the most part, real estate investors. So we've done all sorts of different asset classes.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for what is an opportunity to get into something that can have a creative outcome. So over the years, we've done multifamily, we've done mobile home parks, we've done retail, warehouse. Right now, we're trying to buy as much single-story office as we can. We've been on that kick for about 24 months and really finding creative ways to repurpose that stuff. And
single story office space. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yep. Some people are like, wait a minute, did I hear that right? Because it sounds like craziness.
Well, yeah, it does sound like craziness, but it sounds very interesting. And obviously you've got something that you're doing with these. So let's start there, because that's been your focus for the last couple of years. What do you like about so I'm one floor office buildings. That's what you guys are looking for. Why do you like them?
Yeah. Well, I try not to do the most complicated thing. Like sometimes you don't need to do like the most biggest, fanciest, complicated thing out there. And nothing is really simpler than a single story building, especially if it's brick. It's just one story. You don't have complications. It's just one story. And we're able to take those spaces and really divide them up into smaller suites that service really a local business. We're big on.
Okay, so you're not transforming these things necessarily completely. Like you're not tearing them down or gutting them and building something fancier on top of them.
No,
you're just divvying them up into smaller spaces. For who? So like you get one of these properties, paint me a picture of what it looks like before and after.
Yeah. So property I'm sitting in right now, 60,000 square foot building that a lot of times these things were call centers.
Okay.
Right. So it's got lots of parking. It's got a big, pretty like open floor plan.
Yeah.
And we then divide this, cut this thing up into, 5 to 8, 9,000 square foot suites. And people in here, we have a pest control company that moved in. We have a local training gym, a group called D1 Training. And they set up sports training for high school and amateur athletes. And we've got a compound pharmacy that's in here. So a lot of different businesses are like, look, these things are still limited from distance. It can't really be replaced with the internet. It's hard to do pest control over the internet. It's hard to do, sports training.
It's almost a little bit like I've interviewed a lot of guys that are loving the whole, what do they call it? The flex bay industrial space. It's not quite that, but it's along those lines. Am I understanding?
Yeah, I mean, you could say industrial, but industrial buildings are 50-foot clear heights, and you got 100 semis coming in. This is like it's just a single story building.
Yeah,
and you need some room.
My daughter used to work in a call center, and it went out of business. So there's one of those just down the street. I know exactly what you're talking about now. That painted a beautiful picture.
Yeah, and it's a very flexible footprint.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we love those right now. And you're taking a situation where if you look at call centers across America, most of that stuff is being consolidated. And it's either, It either went overseas or now there's AI bots that are basically doing that whole phone call, and you can't really tell a difference a lot of times.
Yeah.
So that real estate is, we like to say, it's freed up and ready for a new opportunity. So
Exciting stuff. Well, that's, and then not only that, but you're taking these big wide open spaces, these had one tenant in it with a whole bunch of little cubicles,
yeah,
and you're divvying it up into bite-sized chunks.
yep. And
Cool.
we joke around like, hey, how do you decide where it gets divvied up? And it's like, well, in all these buildings, there's also steel columns supporting the roof. So that's kind of the straightest line to go across. Let's just use that right there.
Put a wall in between those suckers and
Yep.
you're
And then
good
we're
to
good.
go.
And it's got to be a
Yeah.
firewall and, permitted and up to code and all that stuff. But, not rocket science.
And not a ton, well, everything's expensive these days, but not,
Yeah.
not massive renovation
No,
costs or rehab
that's
costs.
about as affordable as you can do something when
Yeah.
okay, we're just going in a straight line.
So if you
Um,
don't mind sharing, well, like give
yeah.
me an example. Now I got the picture of what this thing looked like. Call center, vacant, probably for a while now. You guys
Yeah.
buy it, you transform it. Give me a little idea of what the before and after value of these kind of properties might look like.
Yeah. So sometimes it depends on tenant. Like we'll
Mhm.
have some of these spaces where we have a medical tenant goes in and they'll spend 3, 4 times per square foot what we bought the building for their build out.
Mhm.
Right. So then you have an asset that's worth significantly more. We could buy a building for 80 to $100 a square foot and it's worth 150 to 200 if a medical user is in there.
Got it.
Granted, it's always seen as like they're better credit. They have a much longer term lease. So that stuff changes the value a lot. But our
Gotcha.
core is really a 3 to 5 year lease with a local business, right? That's kind of,
Triple net type stuff
yeah. I mean,
or
yes and
not?
no.
Okay.
There's definitely more value if you go fully triple net, but also sometimes we're dealing with smaller businesses that are like, look, we don't. The guy's
Yeah.
like, look, it's just me. It's like me and my wife, or it's a yoga. So they don't have all the resources to go figure out all the back end stuff. So
Right.
we do more creative, modified. There's all these terms you could throw around like modified, gross, double net ish. It's like, look, we're working with an operator. We need to help them get into space, and we've got some functionality we got to do, and so do they. So,
Got it. Yeah. So it depends, right? So the bigger guys,
oh
bigger
yeah,
space, maybe little guys, smaller space, probably not.
yeah. And we're
Yeah.
more like, how do we get to a yes?
Yeah.
We're not like our feet aren't dug in and we're immovable. It's like we got some small suites. We just divvy this up, and how do we get someone that wants to say yes and grow their business and do it here?
So is the value of the property based a lot, not just on improvements, but improved cash flow and having all of those
Yeah.
contracts in place?
Yes, I mean it's
That's where it's at, right?
to me
Basically.
cash flow is king. If you have cash flow, you've got opportunities. You can take a chance on different stuff. You can hold something for longer. You're not forced to sell something. So really it's a race to get to cash flow. And then from
Yeah.
there, hopefully, we want the best for that tenant and they can expand and grow their business and hopefully we can grow with them too.
That makes a lot of sense, Dave. So we started the call off talking about the grass not always being greener on the other side of the fence, right? So you're in a major market, Atlanta. That's a huge, huge, huge metropolitan area.
Yeah.
What, where, when did you kind of figure that out? Like, did you go down the path of chasing assets in far off places and then decided just to stick closer to home, or how did you kind of come to that realization?
Like I'm probably like more I started my career in consulting and traveled a ton. And I was like,
Mm,
hey, I'd love to not have to travel.
mm,
So I launched my business in like the 2010 timeframe. And I was like, hey, if I'm bringing employees on board, I want to make sure that they can get to our assets and get back in the same day and not travel. And
mm,
it ultimately just turned into the fact that like there's tons of opportunities in wherever it is that you live. Even if you live in the middle of nowhere, they're just different. They've
mhm.
got farm and land opportunities in the middle of nowhere that I don't have any farming opportunities in Atlanta. That's not something I'm seeing, but that's probably the best bet if you're in middle of nowhere, Iowa. Maybe there's probably some great opportunities on how that business works, and you can learn it inside and out. Um,
So bottom line, what I'm hearing is people are making money in real estate no matter where they're at. It's a matter of figuring out what asset makes the most sense in your area
Yeah.
and becoming an expert on that.
Yeah. There's and there's this kind of viewpoint of like I got to be the biggest or the largest in the world at something. It's like that's not really the case in real estate. You can do just fine and have a couple deals.
Yeah.
You don't, you don't have to go to New York City and start building skyscrapers to have it count.
Plus,
So
that's probably a quick way to get your, you know what, handed to you.
that too. Yeah. So, and we look at like the local part. If you invest where you're currently at, you've got a little bit of a better understanding of what's the zoning, what can even go there, what's the permit process look like, and it's close by. Just walk down and talk to the person. They'll give you the answer on what you need for permitting.
Yeah,
It's hard if you got
definitely.
to fly somewhere.
Yeah, most definitely.
So,
So, Dave, with this new focus that you guys have been doing with the single story office buildings for the last couple of years, what have been some of like the biggest takeaways or maybe surprises around this that you weren't expecting when you first started?
well,
Good or bad, like
yeah, no,
either or.
good or bad. It's I
Yeah.
feel like the kind of like the war stories, excitement, shenanigans that happens in real estate is always more fun to
Yeah.
learn from. Like your learning is always more fun than the like, hey, this went to plan and went well. And it's like, well, you said it was going to do that, so that's not
Well,
really that
fun maybe
exciting.
in 2020 hindsight. At the moment, maybe not so much, but yeah.
So, but like some good stuff. One, we did there's a lot of talk on government leases right now and what's happening with
Yeah,
government space
for
and
sure.
moving in. And we did a lease with FEMA here in
Mhm.
Atlanta, and they from like, hey, we're interested, we want this space, to them moving in was like 20 days. And when
Wow.
they said, hey, they're going in, they showed up with more trucks and people to mobilize and move and get something done. It was the most impressive move in I've ever seen. Like, period.
They
From
probably
any
wrangled up the National Guard or something like that to help them out. Who
like
knows?
they just showed up in force. They were like 48 hours, the whole place was, I'm like, how did they do like I don't know how they did all this. Like the internet works. Just try and get the internet connected at your house.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it done in 2 days. They were like bam running. So that was certainly impressive. But probably the best stuff we see is like, what do people leave behind when we buy these deals? Because it's
Okay.
always we're buying stuff that's existing, and we've had, you have like cars that are left behind. Like, does someone want this? Like, this is just sitting in here. Like, we got to go track it down and go give it away to people. And there's always like, the proverbial roof leaks and parts that
Yeah.
are missing when you take over and like you didn't see in the inspection. So we're always making allowances for that kind of stuff. But one
I
benefit,
guess as far as like a business model goes, have there been any aha moments or surprises for you from getting into
yeah,
this particular asset class?
yeah, really. I mean, the larger commercial assets when we're buying a bigger building, like most of the companies that own this stuff or were here all had professional uh, real estate attorneys. They had professional either property managers or internal asset management. So mostly all of the assets, even though they're not being used and the call center is not there anymore, they were all really well maintained.
Mm,
So
okay.
uh, it's made things much smoother. As we've done a lot of multifamily renovations over the years, and sometimes you'll go into those deals and it's like, man, this place has just been destroyed,
Hmm.
or band-aids have been put over everything, and you're like navigating little landmines along the way. But a lot of times on the commercial space, you look at who owned it prior, or who you're buying it from and who's been managing it, and you can tell like they've done a good job of keeping stuff up. They at least have good records on all the equipment that's there. So that's been for the most. I mean that's made
That's a
things a lot
pleasant
easier.
surprise.
It
Yeah,
is, and it's like wow,
that's huge.
they said this was done, and we go check and like wow, it is done. It makes it a lot easier going forward. It's not like there's a lot fewer landmines when
I
you're
would
when you're
imagine.
working
All
it.
right. Well, that can't be all sunshine and flowers. What are some of the not so great sides of doing this kind
Yeah.
of
Well,
asset?
so the commercial side, if residential, anyone can rent an apartment. It's really up to you. If you want to, if you they pass your whatever your screening criteria is and they're in, they're good to go.
Yeah.
On the commercial side, that is not the case. Zoning restrictions limit what
Uh,
business can go in and out of everywhere. And then a lot of times you have a small business, you got to walk them through that process of like they need to get a business license. They
oh,
need to
wow.
get
That's small. Yeah.
a taxi. Like you've got some of these things that you've got to navigate with a local municipality that they have to get that stuff before they can get their certificate of occupancy. So you've got a lot more emphasis is on the lease terms in that lease process than
Mhm.
on the physical process. So that lease might not start until they take occupancy, which they need a certificate of occupancy to do.
Yeah.
And technically, that's on them. but I would like them to be able to pay rent. So I want to help them get through that process. So a lot of that kind of like the unforeseen is, hey, we're going to work with a lot of groups and get people through this process so they can get that CO. And it's really us, the tenant and the municipality. Like there's got to be some coming together and getting that over the finish line. For any business, they need that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Very interesting. So as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Dave, we're at the end of Q1 in 2025. Where are you guys going for the rest of the year? Where do you see the business going?
Well, right now we're seeing a lot of opportunities that show up in things that have not worked. So is that everything from you look at like Walgreens stores that have been closing, Party City just went out, got rid of all their leases, Joann Fabrics, a lot of these retailers that are closing down. There's some debate on whether it was private equity backed events causing all this, but you've got a lot of boxes that are going to open up for new ideas. And I think they're great if one's in your local area and you haven't identified a need in your area that you can take advantage of and do it. We're not looking to do it at a national scale and go buy 500 Walgreens that are vacant, but we'll buy one or two that are in our footprint that we can find a creative use and turn those things over. I'm excited about those happening over the next really like 12 to 18 months.
So just that's a completely different box than what you're playing in right now.
Yeah.
Like that's not a one-story office.
Nope.
So just, without spilling all the beans, what do you see being able to turn one of those things into?
We've looked at a couple different, I mean, there's been drive-through car washes that have gone into those spaces. The car wash space has done really well over years. And then, and also just taking those and dividing them into smaller strip centers.
Okay.
So, but a lot of that's like, look, you've got to have your local community on board to be able to change the use of what that site was in.
Right.
So that works in some areas, that doesn't work in others. But I think there'll be some creative uses that can come out of those, and we're looking at a lot of those opportunities in the areas we operate in. Which I'm mostly like Atlanta to a little bit into Charlotte and some into Chattanooga, so all very close to Atlanta.
Very, very cool.
There's
that makes a lot of sense. And staying close to home makes sense because the people that make the rules, right? Or can change the rules. You can
at least go talk to them if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I'm in a city, I can just drive over to the city hall and just ask, like, hey, what would work here? What would not work here? And they're all pretty darn receptive, and they just tell you yes or no. And they have a zoning book, they have a rule book that they're all following.
No, that's smart. Awesome, Dave. Well, hey, I'm sure a lot of people that are watching or listening to this would like to connect with you. If they want to, where's the number one place they should go?
Yeah, best for me is on LinkedIn. I have my cell phone, email all right there. You give me a call through that or reach out to me on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, Dave, thanks very much for being on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, everybody. See ya on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.